Here are a few different ways to construct a histogram and grouped frequency distribution table. So we're going to use the grouped frequency distribution table in order to build the histogram for a specific data. Let's say I have this random set of data, and I would like to first build the grouped frequency distribution table, and from there I will show you two ways in order to construct your histogram. So I'm going to build the table right here. I'm going to call this the lower class limit, and this is the upper class limit, and then I will put the frequency here. So the first things, so now I want to compute the minimum first for my data. So I will use equals minimum, and then I will click on my data or select my data and click enter. So my minimum is 0. The maximum, we're going to use equals max, and then select our data. And now we're going to find the range. The range is basically the maximum minus minimum. So our range is 20. The number of classes, I'm going to choose 10 classes in this case. Now I would like to find the class width. The class width is the range divided by the number of classes, which is 2 in this case. So I did not need to round up or down. The lower class limit of the first class is going to be basically the minimum divided by the class width, which is 0. We typically round it down, but the 0 is not going to be rounded down. We just choose 0. The typical process is you're going to take the minimum, which is 0, and you're going to divide it by the class width. And then you're going to round this number down, meaning if it has any decimals, you're going to remove the decimals and leave it as a whole number. And then you're going to take that number resulting from the division that you did, which is the 0, and then you're going to multiply it with the class width. So after you round it down, you multiply it with the class width. So you're going to say this is equal to 0 times 2 in my case, and we get 0, and that is the lower class limit. Let's say the minimum was not 0. Then you'll take the minimum, divide it by the class width, and then you're going to cut off or remove the decimals and take the whole number, multiply the whole number by the class width to end up with the lower class limit of the first class. In my case, it's 0. And then I will vertically add the class width. So I will say the lower class limit of the first class plus the class width, which is 2. Now, this formula is in this cell right here, which is F4. I will go to the corner and I am going to populate, or I'm going to drag it down until I see the maximum, which is 20. The maximum, which is 20, and I actually need one more number than the maximum. In order to find the upper class limit of the first class, I will say equals, and then I will click on the lower class limit of the second class, and I will subtract 1 from there. So I will have the upper class limit, and now I will populate. So I will send down the formula that I used here. I'm going to make my life easier, and I will be creating a table here. So that table is going to help me populate automatically. So I'm going to highlight the place where I want the table to go, and then I will say insert table. And I have labels in this case, so I ticked this box, and then I will say OK. Now, when I apply my formula to find the frequencies, it's going to send the formula down automatically, and I don't have to manually do that the way I did it previously. So the formula is going to be equal to count ifs, so the one with the S, because we have two criteria. We need all of the numbers greater than or equal to 0, less than or equal to 1. So the function says, what is the criteria range? The criteria range is basically our data. So I'm going to select my data, and I will lock the data in place. So I'm going to say FN F4. In my case, it's FN F4 because I'm on a laptop. If you are on a desktop, it might be only F4. If you are on Mac, it might be Command T. And then you're going to say comma. Now the criteria, I want all of the numbers greater than or equal to 0. Between quotation, I will put the criteria between the two quotation mark, two double quotation. So it's going to be double quotation, greater than equal to, close double quotation, and then shift 7 to put the and symbol. This is double quotation, and then shift 7, and then I'm going to click on number 0. Now, I will repeat the process for once. So I'm going to say comma. The formula again is asking me, or the function is asking me for the criteria range 2. That is my data. So I'm going to select my data, and I'm going to go ahead and lock it, FNF4, comma, and then I want everything that is less than or equal to 1. So I will put it between double quotation, less than equal to, close double quotation, shift 7, and then I'm going to click on 1. Now I'm done with that. As I press enter, the formula is going to be sent down, and it will do the same for the next row and the next row and the row after that. So as you can see here, it didn't work because there is a 1 here. So I'm just going to remove that. I will. All right, so I'm going to go back to the formula, and I will fix the formula, and it's fixed. All right, so as I pressed enter, the formula went down. Now these are the frequencies. This is how we're going to create histogram from these frequencies. We're going to select the frequencies. Then we're going to go to the Insert tab, go to the Charts section, select this shape, and then select bar graph. I know this is a bar graph, but we're going to convert this bar graph into a histogram. So the first step we're going to do, notice how the bins at the bottom are not correct. So we're going to fix that by double-clicking on the bins. And now we're going to click on the funnel shape or the chart filter. And then we need to change the categories. These categories right here, we need to change that, which is the horizontal axis. So we're going to go to select data. And here is the horizontal axis. We're going to edit it. And we don't want 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We want the lower class limits. Sorry, the upper class limits. We want the upper class limits. We select the upper class limit column and click OK. And then click OK here, and you will notice the class width has changed, and the bins have changed already to the correct ones. Now we need the bars to touch, so I'm going to double click on one of the bars to highlight all of them, and then I will go to the gap and close it. And now if you click away, you're not going to be able to see distinctive bars. So I'm going to click on the bucket, and I will change the border color to a lighter color so I can see the difference, or I can see the distinction between these bars. The nice thing about creating it this way is you will be able to add access titles, and you can basically edit the title here as well. You can also add data labels. It's going to show you the frequency on top of each bar. So that's one way of creating it. Another way, which is a little bit easier, is to use the data analysis tool. So to use the data analysis tool, you're going to go to the data tab, and then you go to the data analysis tool right here in the top right corner. If it's not there, then this is how you're going to add it. You're going to go to File, and then you're going to scroll down to Options. Options here, it's not visible on the screen. And then this window is going to pop up. So you're going to go down all the way to Add-ins, click on it, and then you're going to go at the bottom of the page, and you're going to see Manage, and make sure Add-ins is selected, Excel Add-ins is selected, and you're going to press Go. And then you're going to tick the first box if it's not ticked. And then you're going to click OK. As soon as you do that, you will see the data analysis tool pop up here. You're going to double click it. And now you're going to choose histogram from there and click OK. The dialog box is going to ask you for a few information. It will ask you about the input range, which is basically your raw data. So you're going to select your raw data. It's going to lock it in place by itself, so you don't have to. And then the bin range is going to be the upper class limits. So I'm going to select the column of the upper class limits. I did not select any labels, so I'm not going to tick that box. And I want the output range to be on the same sheet. I don't want it to jump to a different sheet, so I'm going to select this radio button, and I will go to the area here and click here and then choose any empty cell. And I want to see the histogram as well, besides the frequencies. So I'm just going to click the chart output or select the chart output and then click OK. As soon as I do that, I will have two things. I'm going to have the frequencies. I'm going to have the histogram. Here is the histogram. You can basically edit this histogram. So if you click on the bars, you can basically go to the histogram here and close the gap, and then you can change the border to a lighter color so you can see the bars separated. You notice that the bins are the accurate bins, and it is already labeled with bins and frequencies, so you can basically leave it as it is. You might modify some of these if you would like to, um, but I like it this way, so I'm just gonna leave it like that. And then you will be able to display the data labels on top of it, and you will be able to change the access titles if you would like to remove them or edit them. So basically this, I'm going to say this is classes instead of bins, and then I'm going to say here frequency. Okay. And as you can see here, you can edit the title as well. Instead of histogram, you can change that. So you choose the method that you would like to go with. I prefer the data analysis tool because I have it ready, and I can compute both the frequencies and create a histogram at the same time. So the reason I prefer it is because it's faster, it's easier to remember, and it's straightforward without any complications. So that is how you're going to create the histogram and the find the frequencies manually and using the data analysis tool. I hope this was helpful, and I will see you in a different video.